Hello everyone, I'm Tarun from Copperx and today we have Bernie with us as our guest for podcast. Thank you Bernie for joining us today and let's start with your introduction about who you are and what you're doing at Stables.
Thank you for having me, first of all. So my name is Bernie. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Stables. Stables is a global stablecoin neobank that allow people to spend, send, and earn on their stablecoins in 150 countries. We started the company in 2021, back in the days when stablecoins weren't as cool as they are today, or as all as they are today.
Yeah.
So I like to call it like unsuspicious time. I think like back then, the thesis was, what we've seen, at least what we have observed, was the stablecoins were going to become the future of money and the future of how we exchange in value, how we transact, and more broadly, how money is going to work and flows. However, what we noticed was that while the technology was giving a lot of promises into the problems they could solve, the user experience was quite subpar. So that's how we started the company, and we started building Stables.
Nice. And would like to go deeper into your background. So where are you coming from? What did you do? And how did you decided to build in a stablecoin space in 21?
Yeah, of course. Yes, I'm originally from Italy. I moved to Australia after high school, and I study in Sydney. Study accounting and finance, and after university, I started working in fintech, and almost by mistake. I think it's like that's how people end up working in startup. It's like by mistake, I got a call from a random place months and months after I applied, and it turns out it was one of these up and coming personal management finance in Australia called Pocketbook, and they were looking for somebody to help them with, I think, all sort of things.
Yeah.
And so I joined them at the end of 2016. At the time, Pocketbook, basically what it would do, it was a personal management finance tool that would allow people to go and connect all sort of bank accounts into one source. And then we would scrape all the data, categorizing using early, ML, call it like machine learning algorithm and regex rules that we built. And then we'll give people insights into, their finances. That was very popular. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but in Australia, there is like a very prominent housing market. People tend to have multiple bank accounts to go and effectively buy as many property as possible. And so Pocketbook was about, I'd say at the time, we had about 750 to 1 million customers. Wow. A small startup, I think it was about 10 of us. And if you put that on the overall, like Australian population, about 20 million, that's quite significant.
Yeah.
Because of the significance of what we were doing, we got banks and fintech very interested into the technology we're building and the direction we're going. Mind you, these were the times where Revolut just started. So Pocketbook was almost like, call it like the Revolut of APAC, or like in the same cohort, I'd say like similarly, you can see that now. And so we got acquired in the first fintech to fintech acquisition by an up and coming Buy Now Pay Later. Again, Buy Now Pay Later also coming out of Australia, Afterpay and Zip, which was the company that bought us. Zip at the time was competing, in fact, with this company called Afterpay, which then later got acquired by Square. And Afterpay at the time had a mobile app, Zip didn't, and so we were competing head to head. Companies both from Sydney, CEO from the same school, so like very interesting dynamic there. And so we were mobile first expert, and so we got basically repurposed as the Zip mobile team. At Zip, I was leading the mobile team from inception till I left in 2021. Tens of millions of customers. So we built it from scratch. We scaled it to tens of millions of customers, billions of dollars in TTV through the rails, and global expansion.
Yeah.
To put some context, so I was working with all sort of payment methods, card issuer. So I got exposure to payments effectively through this experience. And at the same time, I would say, I put in my consumer hat, building products that tens of millions of customers would touch. I got interested into stablecoin because of this, virtual background of working in payments. And so in 2020, 2021, I was like, hey, what's going to happen if you use better payment rails, upgraded payment rails that don't rely on outdated infrastructure with a beautiful user experience and bring that to the world. So on that premise, we raised our seed round from a bunch of prominent Global VC, Jump, Global Funders Capital, FinTech Collective. And yeah, we've been building since, I would
That's
say.
nice. That's nice. I think you decided to build in stablecoin space when I think very few folks were talking about it in
Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
So tell us, like, can you tell us your whole journey of last 4 years, right? Because it's been like 4 years, so there will be
Yeah.
stuff that you might have done.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'd say like, I mean, on the personal side, I think there's been a lot of growth.
Yeah.
I'm a first-time founder, so I'd say like a lot of lessons, a lot of hard lessons that you learn by doing. So like very interesting dynamic there. Like at times like imposter syndrome, I cannot get this done, and then you actually turn out that like you're stronger than that. You can always go to next level. So I think that's been like super interesting. But more broadly, I would say it's been like a crazy ride, as you mentioned. When we started, like a lot of people would say that like I was crazy. Like why stable coins? It's like why not bank accounts or why not Bitcoin? Why not Ethereum? And so like now I'm feeling a bit vindicated, which is great. But also like that doesn't mean that we still like a day zero effectively. So, we started the company back in 2021. The problem set back then was very different to where we are today. At the time, the way that we're thinking about it was like, let's go solve access to yield through stablecoins, and then let's move into payment, which was really our strength. What we learned there, between implosion on our face of Terra Luna, FTX, Celsius, 3 Arrow Capital, and whatever, was like the yield at the time, at least the way it was structured, it was almost like picking up pennies in front of a steamroller, and we didn't want it to be steamrolled. So although we did get and structured the first regulated, like at least in APAC, product that would allow people to go from fiat into stablecoins, fiat into DeFi, sorry. Like at the time we're like, hey, let's rethink what we want to do. So we just moved across onto the payment side. So again, like based on, I'll say the learnings that I had in building Zip and Pocketbook, we decided to start from Australia, which is, clearly we're all in Australia, but it's also like an interesting market to go and build new technology. It's a good melting pot between the East and the West. And so usually, especially these old truths in fintech, if your product manages to get some level of product market fit and scale in Australia, then it means that it's like a good product for the rest of the world. So we started building it and we launched it about, I'd say like 15 months ago. Today we processed about $300 million in total payment volume. We're onboarding customer, 150 countries. Majority of our users come, I'd say, between Asia more broadly and MENA, and like some part of, let's say like Africa as well. And, like the use case is also ever growing. I always like get this question from investor into, oh, so what is the use case that you're serving? And I think the answer is and maybe that's my problem. I'm a very honest guy. And I think the answer is like, there's always new use cases.
Okay, Bunny. So I would like to ask you, what has been your experience with the evolution of stablecoins so far?
Yeah, good question. I don't think I have a universal answer, but I think it's like we've seen all sort of flavors, and we're gonna be seeing more flavors of stablecoins. Fiat back, USDT, USDC, kind of the proven model, one-to-one in a bank account, treasury bills. We've seen algorithmic, which some of them, probably all of them, never end up well.
Yeah.
But I still think that's like an area for improvement and innovation. And I think now we're seeing like more interesting constructs of, tokenizing certain either assets or strategies in a form of a stablecoin. So, and give exposure to, to the people through, the concept of a stablecoins. Look at Ethereum. There's some, also like, new stablecoins are coming out, but like, the idea of almost tokenizing and democratizing access to the basis trade where, you buy an asset spot, you go short on the same assets, and you effectively milking the funding rate on decentralized exchanges. And so that gives you, a stablecoins that pays yield. Or, T-bills back stablecoins that pass the instrument directly back to, to the user. So I think it's like now there's actually a thought that I was having the other day. more a realization. There's already quite a few stablecoins now. I think that's like probably a handful of winners,
Okay.
or
Okay.
that's like it's emerging more and more with those. But what we're gonna be seeing is like by this time next year, there's probably gonna be thousands more. Everybody's gonna be launching a stablecoins, and so I think the opportunity it's gonna really become into the big opportunity is going to be for those that have distribution. So, look at what happened with like Circle, the S1 filings. They're basically paying all of their yield out of to Coinbase. So I think there's going to be like such a big opportunity for the interfaces that user bases, the customers, and they'll be able to distribute these sort of stable coins. And so almost it's going to become like, or at least the way that I see it is like it's going to develop into a highly capitalistic marketplace where the interfaces they will be able to service different stablecoins or different opportunity to their base, and then the issuers or like the payment protocols or whatever, they will then compete to each other to throw as much incentive as possible to get people to actually utilize their product. And so what we're going to be seeing, I think, and this is my hot take, in the next maybe like 12 to 24 months is an imbalance of power shifting from deep down into the stack. So say from a issuer or one L2 kind of like power law to actually being at the app level, an app layer, and therefore stables.
Nice. So are we gonna see USD SM by any chance, like Stables.money?
Our own stablecoin.
Yeah.
I mean, never say never, I would say, but like at this point in time, I don't think so.
Okay.
I thought about it, but I think it's like those are the type of processes and product that you should have once you have like a really meaningful type of size and distribution. Otherwise, there's no need to go and reinvent the wheel. There's just go to the guys that already cracked it and help them achieve their goals. And I think that's a better strategy.
Okay. So I think like let's say like what were the reasons on like why you decided not to do your own stablecoins? Like what were the let's say key reasons for that?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think like doing your own stable coins is gonna become like kind of table stakes. So everybody and their mom is gonna have a stable coins.
Okay.
And so like it just comes down to distribution.
Okay.
It's probably gonna add a bunch of compliance, burdens, cost, and resources into servicing a stable coins. And also like distributing a stable coins is a very different undertake than acquiring users and building product that people use. So if you go and look at like, the more broad stablecoin launches, I think it's more an institutional type of process that you gotta go to get certain level of TVLs. But then at the end of the day, what I've realized by talking to a lot of these either issuer project is while they kind of go and solve for institution, actually what they need is real usage. And the real usage is like apps that they actually have user using the app every day.
Correct.
They're using stablecoins into their everyday life. And so while you can go and game TVL, and maybe not necessarily game, but like go and get TVL, which I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. It's like extremely hard, but it's not the same as having the velocity of money. And, like the same was true when Terra was around, or like, the new up and coming stable coins. At the end of the day, you can get a lot of distribution, but then what you need is velocity of money and money sync.
Correct.
And therefore, like if people are not using your stuff into the real world, then it's just going to become idle assets.
Yeah.
And like that's not money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. And I would like to know your perspective on how are you like seeing the market growing across the world. And I feel like you have a different understanding than a lot of the folks in this space, because most of companies like they are building in a Latin and African region, while you kind of started on the other end. So I feel like you must have like a lot of different new learning than folks.
Look, I think at the end of the day, like we're all working towards the same goal, which I mean, maybe with some different flavors, but I think like what's really important, and I remember I was talking the other day to somebody about CBDCs, and I think it's like, really our goals, I hope at least that's the case, like our goals as, founders in the stablecoin area, I think we should be all aligned that CBDC are bad, and we should all align that we're not going to be working towards a future where CBDC are, like a reality. Like we should all be pushing for private money. We should all be pushing for like separation of state and money, because otherwise I think very dystopian things happens, especially when you start putting, like the most powerful and transparent technology that we ever seen together with money, like that could become like very dystopian very quickly. Like programmable money is great, but it could also be very dangerous, I would say. Like you can expire things, you can cut off people out of the financial system. Instead, we should be all focusing on building unstoppable money. Look, at the end of the day, if building or starting building from Australia to the world, we have global aspirations, and we're gonna end up being, we already are in places where there's like more competition and like a lot of people that like working there. But I think it's still, at the end of the day, what really matters and what is going to do a lot difference is, again, a focus on the UX and goes build products that your grandma could use.
Yeah.
And because abstraction is going to be where this is going to be. At the end of the day, it's money. Nobody cares HTTPS protocol works. They just want to make sure that their search on Google works. They don't care how ChatGPT work or like large language model works. They just want to get answer when they're asking question. Okay. And so similarly, money just need to work. And actually, I don't care how it works. As far as I can go from A to B, as far as I can pay stuff, as far as I can keep it safe, earning a living, I think that's really what matters. And so, I hope that's where money is gonna evolve. But, you never know. It might go like south very quickly as well.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal for all of us, right? Like, I think if anybody's interacting, even if they are interacting with stablecoins, they should not be knowing that there is a stablecoin under the hood, and that's the ultimate goal for sure.
As far as is not state issued, because that would be bad.
No.
So like, I would like to know if the stablecoin I'm interacting with is state issue.
Yeah.
Just because I think then, you'll be, what is the saying? Sorry, I think there was the World Economic Forum say you own nothing, you'll be happy. So it's like somebody basically is gonna own you, and you don't want bureaucrats to own you. Yeah.
Nice. If I, let's say, go deeper into, so what kind of users are you seeing, or what kind of use cases you are seeing, right?
Yeah.
Or what are top 3 use cases from your point of view, individual businesses, and like, what are they?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I'd say, like solving problems for crypto natives.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst I think like crypto natives are acquainted to pain, both by, being in a highly volatile industry and also using product that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like at times it takes me 2 hours to try to understand like which button am I supposed to click.
Yeah.
And you could be like 10 years in crypto, that still doesn't change. And it's like, we have a problem in the way that we're building product and we're servicing things. Some of the most successful product out there, like I feel like I need a PhD still to understand actually what the fuck is going on.
Yes.
So like, I think like solving the UX problem for, crypto native, it's like a very worthwhile endeavor. And then I think it's like the more crypto agnostic base. So, people that started discovering stable coins out of necessity, whether it's like, escaping inflation or, getting money from it to be faster and cheaper, or, for whatever reason, like actually people have been censored by states, governments, and not necessarily doing bad things. And, they need to find a way to utilize those money. So I think like those are very valid use cases. On the business side, it's like, again, as I said earlier, very liberalized. Like what we see the most is like almost the cross-border B2B payment, payroll, also something that we're seeing. Like crazy stories. They're like businesses in the Philippines. Now they put Stables as one of their onboarding tools to get these employees being able to start working, because if they were to use existing solution and they were paying US dollar, what's happening is like usually their account get frozen above $1,000 a month. And so like stable coins actually, as I said, they give you that freedom of owning money, moving money, storing money without the overhang of unnecessary compliance. And then when you want to bring it into the real world, that's where all the proper check and balances come to make sure that the money don't come from illicit sources.
Correct. And how does the future look like? Let's try to answer this in 2 stages. Like one for individuals with stablecoins. Let's say, like, where do you see what will happen in 5 years? Like, or what is your dream for individuals and for businesses who move money using stablecoins?
Yeah, I mean, difficult question to answer. But I would say, like, on the individual side, hopefully stablecoin are going to become the backbone of all of the things. And it probably is the same answer for both of them, right? Like, it's just the backbone of all the things money.
Yeah.
So it's like programmable, it is auditable, it is fast, and to some extent cheaper, but like not necessarily, like that's to be seen. And so, like, you really allow people to be on top of their money.
Yeah.
And most importantly, having access to tools that before they weren't accessible. So something that really gets me excited, I'd say, on the individual side is once you manage to put stable coins in the hands of, or in the pocket of individuals, then because of the programmability and the modularity of this new form of money, you can start accessing the world. You can start accessing like, real world. So you can start accessing like yield opportunity, otherwise it wouldn't be, accessible. So for instance, I don't know if you ever tried to buy T-bills through broker.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, I tried once, and you go on a platform, you sign up on a brokerage platform, and it's like a platform from the 70s. Onboarding process is awful.
Yeah.
And once you eventually manage to get that done,
Yeah.
there's a minimum buy of T-bills of 100K US.
Wow.
And so it's like, you go and say, well, okay, so, and this is why I think also Tether has been so successful, is because like at some point, people don't want to have necessarily the yield. They just want to have access to the underlying.
Correct.
But like once you can put the underlying in people's pocket, then the opportunity is going to come to go and access other things, tokenized gold, T-bills, housing, like whatever, you name it. So like we're going to really open up finance at an individual level, like in places where before it wasn't possible. So I think that's super exciting on the individual side of things. On the business side of things, I think it's just like, moving all business flows onto stable coins. Maybe we're going to make banks, like, while they're partnering up into the flow of funds, is going to be just last money remittent. And I mean, maybe we're going to clean up the space a bit because, as much as people trying to say the crypto is bad, I'll tell you that finance is way worse. And, stablecoin actually probably can help that on the institutional level quite a bit. There's a lot of dealings that, because it's all going to be on chain and auditable, that, you can't necessarily go mix and mash and clean up on the other side. So I think that's exciting. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah. I think when we were talking about, access to T-bills, right? Last week, like I was listening to Akshay Bedi, and Solana has like, this new initiative called Internet Capital Markets, right? Where, so I was just listening to Akshay Bedi, and he told like how like, like per capita income is not growing that much, and the difference between the capital growth in the globe versus the income is increasing over time, right? So in a way, like, the way we see the upgrade of financial system, right, is more like, first, even if we given access to stable coins to these people for us, right, and then they can also do like buying stocks, bonds, assets, other assets with or let's say with this USDC or USDT or with stable coins. This can enable a lot of opportunities, right? For example, I mean, I have rarely bought US stocks. I want to. It's just that I don't want to deal with the banking apps, right? It's not that it's not available. It's too tedious for me, right? Too many forms, too much of applications and everything, right? Versus, I think I can easily go and buy Coinbase stocks on Base with just a single click, right? So it opens up a huge market.
Socket.
Yeah, and if you know, like when Luna was there, right, I think 2-3 years back, right, there was this marketplace where we could buy Apple and Google stocks.
Mirror. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Mirror
That was
funds,
pretty impressive, right? Like somebody sitting in some random country, they can easily buy US stocks. That is not possible at all. So I feel like, like stablecoin enables you to access the internet capital market in a way.
100%.
And that's magnificent. Like that is, and that in a way like uplifts every single person, right? Without borders.
And that's probably enough. Like, if crypto does one thing and it does that well, that's probably enough.
Yeah.
Like, and forget the grifts, forget the shitcoin gambling, forget the, the pump and dumps. Then if we can go and just do that, that it's going to be actually probably one of the biggest innovations of the century.
For sure. I feel like, I mean, there will be thousands of companies being built on top of this, right? And it will give an access to billions of people globally to access this markets. So it's pretty crazy to even think of that right now, and I think that would not have been possible to even think 10 years back.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right? So it's really empowering, right? Okay, so that's good. I think let me just go through. Yeah, I have one more question before we head to rapid fire, right? So what are you most excited about in next 12 months?
Woo. I mean, a bunch of things. I'd say number one, I'd say probably stablecoin regulation
Okay.
and some clarity probably coming out of it. I think that's really going to unleash this spirit animal, both, the capital market side of things and almost like adoption side of things. So once we have regulation in place out of the US, kind of everybody's going to fall into place.
Yeah.
And kind of start thinking they can, if they haven't already, integrating stablecoins into the business and how that's going to, impact the future of money flows. I mean, there's going to be like hopefully a bunch of, these bigger old crypto company that they're going to be IPOing as well.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be probably a data point for investor and some relief also into getting some liquidity in some of these biggest company in position to then go and redeploy into the, call it like smaller cap, possibly stable coins, I would imagine. And yeah, and then more broadly, like, on a stables point of view, I'd say, launching things globally, launching global cards, and then start doing a bit more of a push into customer acquisition.
Yeah.
So, we've been working so hard on the platform and all the things for the past 2.5 years, and I think it's gonna be probably time to come with head above water and start making some noise.
For sure. I'm really happy to see you going global now. I think last time we had chat, you were looking to expand to few markets, but now it's gonna be global. So really excited for you.
But we'll see if we can support it. But I think we have a good blueprint, a good playbook, and
Yeah.
that's like time in the market gives you.
Yes.
That's the value of being in the market for so long and understanding actually how things work and they're gonna develop and
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Good to hear that.
To moving money, like then the use cases that you can go and solve, or the problem you can go and help solving, it's ever growing. So
Correct.
we started with crypto natives. Now we're seeing more crypto agnostic. They're trying to avoid inflation. We're seeing businesses that they want to settle invoice globally. We're seeing businesses that like PSP provider. We're seeing Forex company. We're seeing, and this is spanned from all over the world: Africa, US, Asia, Australia, and so it's a hard question really to answer. But I think it's definitely something happening. We have a product out there. We haven't done any marketing. We haven't spent any money on incentives, and people are using it every day. And so I think it's definitely a very, very interesting space to be working into. Like we're rewiring the way the money moves, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
And it's more than just building interfaces. I think it's when you go and think about long and deeply how to build these sort of businesses, it's, of course it's like solving user experiences, but it's also like solving for regulation and compliance. And those very important assets that these type of businesses have. I think at the end of the day, one of the other non-consensus bet that we made, at least back in 2021, was investing deeply into regulatory and compliance.
Correct.
Licensing, chief risk officer, head of risk, transaction monitoring, on-chain, off-chain, fraud engine, all sort of things that you might think of. That we put money, time, and effort, and it's a never-ending battle. But that's super important assets, to be having, because at the end of the day, that's what makes or break the business.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's do a rapid fire. Okay. First question: USDC, USDT, or any other stablecoin?
USDT and USDE.
Okay. Pay a friend in fiat or stablecoin?
Stablecoin.
One founder or company in this space you deeply respect?
Kane.
From?
Infinex.
Nice. Which one is your favorite chain to build on with stablecoins?
Plasma.
Perfect. Most underrated chain right now in stablecoin space?
Plasma.
Perfect. Last thing you paid for with crypto?
Let me check.
Shit. Damn.
You got somebody, you can pay stuff with cryptos.
Yeah.
Uber.
Perfect. One Web2 company that will issue its own stablecoin?
Stripe.
Okay. non-fintech company.
Maybe like a Timo.
Predict the headline. First Fortune 500 company pays dividend in stablecoin.
Maybe Coinbase.
Wow, that's good. If crypto vanishes tomorrow, what would you do?
Nothing.
Farming?
Or farming.
Yeah, okay.
I'll do
Makes
nothing on a farm. Yeah. I mean, maybe.
Makes sense. Cool. So thank you so much for joining us today, Varni.
Pleasure.
It
Thank you
was
for having me.
really great listening to you. We covered a lot of good topics, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.